this is a Wohnwagen and this is a Wohnmobil. Just wait. By the end of the video, you will agree with me. Hey everyone, Dana here. Okay, so just hear me out here. Let me explain to you where I'm coming from. I'm gonna break down my thinking for you. I'll start with something easy. Do we all agree that this here is a wagon? Pictured in this photograph is a wagon, right? Let me know in the comments if you don't think this is a wagon, but I can tell you that for sure within my first few weeks of learning German so many years ago, I learned from my very reliable German textbook that the word Wagen is another word for Auto. Das Auto, der Wagen. And over the years, I've heard many Germans talk about Wagen this, Wagen that, referring to their car. But if you need further proof that the word Wagen can be used to mean auto, just do a Google image search for der Wagen, and you will see lots and lots and lots of pictures of autos. Then we have the Wohn part of the word Wohnwagen. And Wohn, as you may already know, comes from the verb wohnen, to live. Stitching these two parts together, Wohn for living and Wagen for auto, I come to what I think is the completely logical conclusion that Wohnwagen would be living space car. A vehicle that can be both driven, hence the Wagen part, and lived in, hence the Wohn part. Now let's move on to part two, Wohnmobil. When I look the German word mobile up in a German-English dictionary, I get mobile, which describes something that can be moved. The apartment that I live in, for example, is not mobile. A car, however, is mobile, but so is a container on wheels. The trash cans that I have here where I live, for example, are mobile. They can be wheeled out to the curb for pickup day and then wheeled back inside afterward. I would say anything that can be moved with relative ease is mobile. And wohn, once again, comes from wohnen, to live. Therefore, I come to the, once again, as far as I'm concerned, completely rational and logical conclusion that a Wohnmobil would be a mobile living space. A living space that can be moved with relative ease, but just like with my example with the trash can, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a living space that can drive itself around like a car can. That's my thinking at least. But does the German language agree with me? No, it does not. And if you're also not convinced yet, then stick around another few minutes. Maybe this next explanation will do the trick. A motor vehicle is something you can drive. You can get behind the wheel and you can drive it. So, for me, this thing here is a motor vehicle living space. You can get behind the wheel of this vehicle and you can drive off into the sunset in it. With this, you do not need a separate motor vehicle to get this thing from point A to point B. It is all packed together in this one vehicle. This, however, is mobile. Yeah, it can be moved from place to place with relative ease, sure, but it cannot be driven. If all you have is this, you're not going on a road trip. You might be able to camp out in your driveway, but that's it. This vehicle here always requires some other motor vehicle to drive it from one place to the next. So yes, it is mobile, but it does not have the same capabilities as a car or a van or a motor vehicle because it is not a motor vehicle. You cannot drive it. Taking that into consideration, armed with that information, let's say you're presented with two German words. You're given the word Wohnwagen and the word Wohnmobil, and you're asked to assign each of those words to one of these two things. This is a brand new word decision. These two things and these two words have just newly been created, and you're given the task of deciding which word goes with which thing. I know what I'm gonna do. It's obvious. I'm giving Wohnwagen to this one here and Wohnmobil to this one here. Because while yes, both are mobile, only this one has the ability to be driven as a Wagen. Das Auto, der Wagen, der Wohnwagen. You can drive an Auto. You can drive a Wagen. You should be able to drive a Wohnwagen. Why, in German as it is, can you not drive the Wohnwagen? I don't get it. I really think this should be the one with the word Wagen in the name, because Wagen is Auto, is car, and you can drive a car and you can drive this. Calling this here a Wohnwagen, as far as I'm concerned, is just as silly and ridiculous, it makes no sense, as naming a sport that occasionally uses one part of the body a few times throughout the whole game by that body part. Naming the sport by that body part rather than after a more defining feature of the game, like, say, the strange shape of the ball or how the players move on the field. I don't know. Yes, American football, I'm looking at you. It is weird that it's called football. I agree with you, Germans. That doesn't make sense. Football for American football doesn't make sense. But also, Wohnwagen and Wohnmobil do not make sense. They do not make sense. So my question for you is, have you been convinced? Do you agree with me? Do you get what I'm saying? Or do you think like, no, Donna, the German language knows what it's doing. Do you agree with the German language as it is? And what do you think about the word football for American football? What do you think about that? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to make sure that you see all my videos, you don't want to miss any of them, you can subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell and select all notifications for this channel. And you can also follow me over on other social media like my Twitter and my Instagram. My Instagram stories are usually in German, also usually with little English subtitles. And if you would like to support my videos a little bit more, you can also share them with your friends and online. I really can't tell you how helpful that is when you share my videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also a really, really, really huge thank you so very much to our patrons over on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your support. If you would like to support us over on Patreon, you can find a link to that down in the description box below. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen. This is a Wohnwagen, and this, ow.